YouTube says I'm live. Let's just check. Let's see. Okay, here I am. Is there audio? Audio? Hello. There we go. Yes, it's the Nazarite, bringing you Hebrew lore from days of yore. It is Wednesday afternoon. Afternoon? Yeah, 2 p.m. Just about 2 p.m. here in Jerusalem, taking a break from work so I could be with you good people before it's, the late afternoon and kids come home and all that. I've got the house to myself. I've got a cup of tea. All is relatively well here, and I'm glad to be online. I, once again, was not really planning on going live now. I thought maybe of doing it later or to let my voice rest, but I just can't stay away from from the live stream. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, noon, Garfield says. Hey, Garfield. How you doing? Okay, so I spoke yesterday to Camo Tobe. We were talking about atheism, and it was his contention that atheists can't be good people. So I told him they really can't be good people, like by definition. And he says this. He said, atheism is the root which deny God's law. It is root of adultery, pride. The truth is atheists deny God not because God is not alive, he says, but because they like to sin. Is there anything good? Devil also do good. God's name is I am who I am here, he says. Are you really so brave to say, God does not exist and his law does not touch me? So basically he's saying that atheists are vain and proud. I disagree. I disagree sort of on general principle, because one of the things that the divine revelation does, at least at times, is hide itself. Right? We see this even in the Torah. It says in the last, in the next to last Torah portion of Ha'azinu, right? The poem that Moses and Joshua taught the people of Israel. And it says, that day I will hide the hiding of my face. It's one thing if I give this analogy all the time. Let's say that you lost your keys. Well, oh crap, I lost my key. I need to look for it. But what if you don't even know that you lost your key? Then you're standing in front of a door and it's closed and you don't know why, because you don't really know what's supposed to happen next. So this is the type of thing where it's a double hiding, a double hiddenness. In the Hebrew it says, haster astir, I will hide my hiding, so to speak. Now you can make the argument that it's meant to sort of amplify the idea of God hiding the revelation in order for the people of Israel to have free will and to choose righteousness of their own accord, so to speak. To choose to go in the path of God, even if God is not revealed to them as greatly, as wonderfully, as openly as before. That idea of God hiding his revelation in order for, the wicked side, the dark side of the force to have its say, to give the devil his due, as it were. But I still maintain that many atheists, I'm sure, are charitable and have goodwill and have loving kindness and are philanthropists and are, they love people. And and animals or earthlings. I mean, it seems to me such. So I told him, "Are you saying all atheists negate God's existence out of pride and insolence?" I told him that's too much of a broad generalization for me to even contemplate. It's like there have been so many people downtrodden with a bad life. Some of them have found God, and some of them are saying there is no God, and both of them are saying that from that place, from that very negative place. So Camo Tobe said generalization is based on the fact that people are the same in general, which I get what he's saying. I'm generalizing because I say people are in general people. I get that, but I still don't agree with him. And he says, God's name is I am who I am. How is that possible that anybody say God does not exist? It's evil. And Bible is clear about the spirit who say that. And this is where the back and forth ended for now. But I still kind of don't agree with him. I mean, we can agree to disagree, right? He has his opinion, I have mine. I definitely think you can be a good person and still not believe in a deity. Certainly not in a way that a religious person would think of a deity, let's say. And you could be a good person, a kind person, a charitable person, even if you do have some ego involved in it, of course. We all have ego involved in our day-to-day life. So it's like, okay, but how much of the ego do you let shine through? Are you trying to stifle your ego? Are you trying to shed your ego? Are you aware of your ego? Right? It's like, okay, I'm doing good things because I want to be held as a righteous person. Okay, fair enough. Are you doing good things? So where's the line? Would it be better to not do the good thing and not want to be seen as righteous? It's like, not necessarily. It could be that both of these can exist at the same time. And that you could say, okay, doing good deeds is good. Being, wanting the accolades and the righteousness label to come with it, that might be not as good, but it's not horrible. You see what I'm saying? At least you're getting the actual thing done de facto and you're doing something good in the world. Unlike, say, someone else who would pretend to do good and want the accolades and want the label of righteous person, but actually do nothing. So I'm sure that, or I think that even Kamotobe would agree, or is it Kamo to be, would agree that, yes, you should do good in the world, and even if you're expecting the accolades and the title of, oh, that's a good person, it would still be worth it, and it's better to do something good and expect a reward than not do the good thing at all. You see? Now, people might disagree with me. Definitely, people might disagree with me. AIM said, this schmuck is a degenerate devil worshipper. And I corrected him. I said, no, I am a degenerate devil worshipping dumbass. See, you gotta be precise. You gotta be precise. Okay. Vishal says, do you know Osho? Yes, I have read one or two of Osho's writings. And, it's been a very, very long time, so I don't really recall. But I enjoyed a few of his teachings, that's for sure. Where are you, William Barry is here. The real truth is here, 49ers is back here. Being good, does it qualify you to heaven? Jesus paid the price. Well, okay, I'm not a Christian and I'm not a follower of Jesus. I'm saying that if you're a good person, now again, obviously that's subjective. Obviously some people do horrible things and think that they're awesome. That's not what I'm saying. Things that generally, and I'm making a broad generalization myself, things that would generally be accepted as kind of objectively good, or to the best of the person's ability, to the best of our ability to discern and say that is kind of objectively good. It doesn't mean that there's no ego there. It doesn't mean you can't get a bump of dopamine or oxytocin or whatever feel-good chemical rushes through you when you do a good deed. Maybe that's okay. As long as you do the good deed, what's the problem? Aksa Fatima says, hello from a Muslim. Wa alaikum salam. Kif halik? Garfield says, by the way, a persistent cough can be a symptom of calcium deficiency. Check it out. So I do check it out. I've never been deficient in calcium. I do think, because I had this a year and a half ago and I took some anti-allergy, antihistamine pills for a couple of weeks and it was gone. And then I was down to taking antihistamine pills once a week just to keep it at bay. But then after it didn't rear its head at all, I stopped taking the pills. I don't want to have to take pills all my life. It might come to that, but I'm a young man, relatively, and I wouldn't want to do that, so we'll see. How's the coughing? Slowing down? Hey, my father is here. Hey, Paul. Slowing down, I suppose, would be the way to put it, but it's not all the way there yet. Not all the way there yet. Garfield says, I'm peachy, recovering from slipped discs. Oh, wow. That's gotta suck. Your energy and thought-provoking monologues have been helping me greatly. Well, it's not a monologue, really, even though it's just me talking. It's a dialogue as far as I'm concerned. But, yes. Thank you, I appreciate that. Being good... Oh, I'm sorry, we read that already? Garfield says, my priest has a saying, making coffee for the church on a Sunday does not get you to heaven. You are in Jerusalem, meaning you are in Palestine. No, I'm in what the Romans called Palestine, the Jews called it Judea, and people who were here under the British Mandate of Palestine continue to call it Palestine. Whatever name you call it, Al-Quds, or El-Uds, or Yerushalayim, or Jerusalem, or Ilia Capitolina, whatever name you give it, or Jerusalem. Yes, I am indeed in the land that the British and the Romans and many others called Palestine. Do you believe in God, not Jesus? Yes, I do, Wendy Kirkland. I do indeed believe in the Most High God. Do you Jew guys ever wash your hair? Well, I can't speak for other Jew guys. But me, yes, I do wash my hair. Where did you get your locks done? I didn't. It's God who got them done. I simply stopped combing and brushing my hair 15 years ago, and this is the result. Right? That's how you get natural locks. You put down the comb, you put down the brush, you let nature take its course, you keep the hair clean, but you don't mess with the interlocking process, and there you go. You have natural dreadlocks. Now, I had my first knot happen in the back of my head. It took around 6 or maybe 7 months for a nice firm knot to form. For the first 6 months, the hair was sectioning itself out naturally, parting itself, and then knots started to form, but I did not get them done. This is Adonai who did my hair. I'm good. How about you? Aksa Fatima asks, I am very, very good. Yes, indeed. Happy to be here with you. Okay. What do you believe about Christ consciousness and the idea that prayer is more meant to be meditation? Well, no, I'm not a rabbi, Aksa. Definitely not a rabbi, not a preacher, not a teacher, not a master. I'm just an apprentice. Right, I'm a student. Christ consciousness, I don't know what that means because I don't follow Christ. But if you're talking about Christ not as in Jesus, but just as the anointed one, because that's literally the meaning of the word Christos. Christ means anointed one. Anointed one in Hebrew means Mashiach, or Messiah. Now, priests have been anointed, and prophets have been anointed, and kings have been anointed, and regular folk have also been anointed a little differently. So if you're talking about Christ consciousness as a Christian, I have no idea what you mean. If you're talking about this idea of the consciousness of the anointed one, then clarify that, and I'll give you, what I think about that. As for the idea that prayer is more meant to be meditation, I think it's both. The idea of hitbodedut, which is spontaneous prayer, dialogue between you and God, the idea of a prayer in a prayer book, like many Orthodox conservative reform people have now, all of those, both of those coexist. As for meditation, there's spoken meditation like mantras, and there's silent meditation of silence, more like zazen. And the Hebrew faith, in its Orthodox way anyway, has it both. Because we have prayers that we say out loud, we have prayers that we speak softly and nobody hears it, Tfilat Lachash, Amidah, Shmoneh Esrei, and we have times of silence, or at least I do. So, yes, that's what I have to say about that. But prayer is not only meditation, right? I mean, prayer is there for the human being. God does not need our prayer. It's that when we pray and when we utter things, or we stay in silence, depending on the case, or when we hum a tune, a sacred tune, or say a sacred mantra, or anything of the sort, or just talk like I'm talking to you right now, a spoken meditation, it's there in the Hebrew faith, in the eyes of the Torah, meant, right, to form a connection between creation and the Creator. And this is in part how that it's done. It doesn't mean you need to be able to speak to have a connection with God. It doesn't mean you also, if you're only silent, that you don't have a connection with God, which is why I say that it's both. But prayer as such is something that is supposed to cause an influence and a difference and a change within the human being and within creation. So God doesn't need the prayers. It's us who need the prayers, in the sense of that when we speak something into being, we emulate the way in which God spoke creation into existence with a revelation of speech. That's in the book of Genesis. And so we, made in the image of God, follow in those ways of the Most High God, and we speak things into being. We are the shapers and movers and shakers of these worlds, physical and material and spiritual alike. Will you talk slower trying to sleep? No, you know what? I'm kind of a blah, blah, blah person, so my apologies. What's on the cup? Jacob Slaughter asks. So someone asked this last night. I don't know this character, but I've had this cup for many years. It belonged to my woman. If somebody knows, let me know. Have you been anointed? Robert asks. Have I been anointed? I mean, I have anointed myself not as any kind of character or anything, but just simply in oil. I've put oil on my hair before. I've anointed my. I don't think I've been. Have I? Was there? Did he? I don't recall right now. There's a chance that I was, but not with a drum of oil or a pitcher of oil like on my head. Just I've anointed two people, and when I say anointed, I mean take a bit of olive oil that I have kept for that purpose, and poured some on the crown of their head. But I don't think so. I don't think I've been anointed by another. Let's put it that way. Could you share any wisdom about Saturn? No, I think Saturn is one of the gods, one of the titans, I don't recall, and I have no wisdom, not of the god or titan, or the planet for that matter. Pre-philosophy says hi. Yes, I like that, pre-philosophy. Cam de Cruz says, yes, I don't mind Christian teachings, but I mean more like a Buddha figure, whatever you'd like to call it. I'm still not following you. I mean, that idea of a consciousness, of awareness, right, and of mind-revealing practices, mind-revealing rituals. This is the way through which we become that image of God in which we were uniquely, personally, each and every one of us created, right? Each and every one of us has this image of God in which we were created. We're not all the same. We each have a unique They say divine spark, and that's a part of us, not part of the divine, though some say it is. I disagree, but that's just me. Well, it's not just me, but it's just me in this context. The idea of having some sort of origin in the divine as the image of God means that we each have a mission to fulfill, a job to do. We have a task that we have been set. We have a gift we need to give to the world, to quote once again the way of the superior man. And in that, all of the different teachings, practices, and rituals that we undergo, they are meant to broaden our minds, right? They are meant to widen our perspective, to clarify and refine the lenses through which we view the world. And in doing so, right, expand the radius of our influence, hopefully for the better, because we are made in the image of God. We are the image of the Creator. We are also creators. It's true in the sense that we work with tools and innovate and invent, and it's true in the sense that we are, as I said, the movers and shakers and makers and breakers of worlds, just like God. Differently, but just like God. Dude, you're always live. Don't you have a job? Yes, I'm taking a break from my day job. I'm working from home today. So yes, I do have a job. I will be going back to it. I think I'll be on for about an hour and then I'll go back to work. But also about that, Victor, yes, I am very grateful and thankful that I don't have a regular 9 to 5 job. I can work whenever I want. I set my own hours. I can go into the office or I can work from home, which means that if I know that my woman will be working late, like today, and that there's a chance that I'll be too tired in the afternoon, in the evening, and the kids will be home and all that, and here now I have a couple of hours to myself, it means that I would rather go live and put in the extra hour of work later, because I'll be able to, rather than wait until later. I might be tired and I'm here now, right? And I wanted to do it. So yes, I am always live. I'm always live. It's really, really great. It's a lot of fun. There have been times where I broadcasted every day. There have been times when I haven't broadcasted for months in between. There have been times when I broadcasted only once or twice a week. And right now I'm on a roll. Right now I'm just broadcasting daily. I think that it's doing me a lot of good. It's part of the therapeutic process that I'm undergoing, right? I'm not just bullshitting when I say that the dialogue that we have here, it gives me sustenance, it gives me nourishment, it strengthens me, it sharpens me. I truly do feel like that. Also, they say that idle hands are the devil's workshop. And if I'm going to take a break from work, I'd rather do this and engage and maybe learn something rather than just zone out in front of YouTube or watch something on Netflix. Or this is something that can actively help me. And as I said, it's part of my therapeutic process, at least right now it is. It's not always, I suppose, but right now it is. So yes, I am always live. It won't always be this way, of course. But right now, I can be live every day. I don't take that for granted, not in the least. Also, look, I have a great job. I have a wonderful career. But if I could somehow make this my day job, let's say, if I could become a YouTuber, and it's not my goal, but if this could facilitate that I could truly set my own hours and not work for a different company, but work for myself and be self-employed, well, why would I not put in the time if I have it not to spare, but to invest? If I have the time to invest in it, I would definitely do that. There are tons of people, right, on the grind, 9 to 5, working jobs. If you're lucky, if you're blessed, and I have been, you have a career. I had a job, a day job, Joe jobs for many years. For the past decade plus, I've had a career, and it's been really, really wonderful. However, well, you can say that I'm still greedy. Having a job is not enough. Having a career is not enough. I would love to take it to the next level and be self-employed and be able to do this, right? And I'm a writer, right? To be able to write my own stuff rather than write all day at my day job. And then by the time evening rolls around, I don't sometimes have the strength, the desire, the inclination to, open up a script and start thinking like a screenwriter. So this would give me the option of doing that, where I could only work a couple of hours a day, let's say, and the rest of the day, and make a living at it. The internet is an amazing thing. The internet allows people to burst through the gates and shatter all the ceilings. No middlemen, no companies, it's like you broadcast yourself, and it might turn into something. So yes, I'm always live. I do have a career. I love my job, but I also love doing this. So yes. Let's continue with the chat. Cam says, I don't see the world through the Jewish lens as I wasn't brought up and haven't adequately researched it, but I grew up Catholic and understand God more in a spiritual than religious sense. Well, by spiritual, do you mean like the plain connection, and by religious, you mean the ritual worship and the practices and the different rituals? I'm assuming maybe that's what you mean. Evelyn says, Shalom, may God bless you and your family, and you. And you. Shalom Chaver Echata, says Luke Miller. Hello, friend, how are you? I am doing very, very well. Aksa says, an idle mind is the devil workshop. That too. That too. Manan says, ain't women not supposed to work in Judaism? Women can definitely work. They're not supposed to. So, no. The Barnyard says, are you Jewish? Yes, indeed I am. Of the kingdom of Judah. That is me. Only Jesus can save your soul, says John. Could be. Christians think that way. Followers of Jesus think that way. Messianic Jews might think that. Torah-following Jews who don't follow Jesus think that, no, you save yourself by the grace of God. You work on the Torah, right? You learn Torah, you perform the commandments, you stick to the covenant, carry the tradition forward, try to be a good person. That's how you save yourself. You're not dependent on any external thing to save you. Obviously, different things can come into the picture. Obviously, different things can happen to you, and they can inform you, and they can shape your experience. And you never know, like Jim Rohn said, right? Welcome all experiences. You never know which one will be the one to turn everything on. So, and I've mentioned that as well a few times recently. But to say if you're a Christian, only Jesus can save you, fine. If you're a Christian, I don't believe that for a second. I think Jesus is a dead man, and I'm not going to be saved by a dead man. I'm the one who is alive. For now, I'm the one who can actually carry on the Torah and the commandments, while the dead cannot. Lo hametim hallelujah, it says in the Psalms. The dead do not praise Yah. We do. We, the living. In spite of all of our faults and insufficiencies, in spite of all the places where we are broken and cracked and weak, we are the ones who can carry out these commandments. The dead cannot. The angels cannot. The demons cannot. Only us, lowly human beings, have that unfathomable power to carry out the Torah and the commandments. So even though Christians may say only Jesus can save you, I choose to go with the Torah and say, no. That's my belief too, says something in Asian language. Is it Korean? That I can't tell. But yes, it's a good thing that that's your belief too. Cam says, I've always felt at the base of it we're all getting at the same thing if you get to the core of whatever's teaching versus what you hear in your average sermon, if you will. Well, okay, it's like, yes, we have one shared root in the divine, and we are, and it branched out to different branches, and those... So you could argue that at some point certain things branched out and now it mutated and now it's something else altogether, and only in the root we are alike totally. And you could say, no, the branches are the same branches that yield the same fruit with no mutation. We just look at it differently, like the allegory of the elephant, right? 4 people with blindfolds next to an elephant, and someone says, how do you describe the animal? So somebody who's holding his tail would describe it as a thin worm-like creature. Somebody holding the trunk would describe it more like a snake. Somebody who's holding a leg would describe it as a circular, thick thing. And somebody who's just patting the hide would say, no, there's nothing circular about it. It's just this weird-ass thing. Yeah, and then once they take the blindfolds off, they can see it's neither one of those one things alone. It's all of those things together that make up the elephant. In the very same way, different religions have a different approach to the divine revelation, to ritual worship, to the knowledge of good and evil, and the carrying out of separate commandments or whatever. But you can make the argument that eventually all religions lead back to the divine connection and to spirituality, and by virtue of that, to the Creator. But I still say that how you carry things out in the world matters. And this is a world of knowledge of good and evil, a world that is mostly bad and some good, as the Kabbalists say, which means that we need caution and we need discernment and we need to know what we're doing. You need to have your eyes open to the best of your ability in order to not make the mistakes of thinking, right, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You don't want to be that guy or gal. So to think critically, to have faith in whatever faith it is you want. Do you have blind faith? Is it something that it's a prerequisite for some religions? Maybe not in the Hebrew faith. No, the commandments are a prerequisite. Blind faith is not. So, and once again, eventually, to each his own or her. But obviously, some things will, in the Venn diagram, let's say, will overlap between Islam and Buddhism, between Christianity and Baha'i, between the Jews and the Hindus. It's like, yes, different religions, some of the things overlap, some of the things coincide or align with one another. And eventually, it comes down to being a righteous person, to being a good person, by the general rule, right? The golden rule. What does it mean to be willfully blind, says Robert? Well, it means to knowingly and consciously turn a blind eye to something that you perhaps ought not turn a blind eye to or towards. That's what that would mean. Chord Charge says, Holy Hebrew, Batman. Moo, 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 we get it. We're your cattle according to your religion. Okay, one truth seeking. If you're seeking the truth, hear me now. Maybe some Jews say that. Maybe it's even written in some book somewhere. It's definitely not halacha, rabbinic law, and it's definitely not something that I, as a Hebrew man, go with. I don't think I'm better than anybody. I don't think anybody is my cattle. And even if I was raising cattle, I wouldn't think of it as my cattle. I would think of it as something that I'm, taking care of, and that I'm the patron of the cattle. So, moo, 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 if you say so, yeah, if you say so. To everyone in the chat, says Robert, God loves you. Oh, isn't that special? Let's continue in the chat. What do you think about the Sufis, says Chord Charge? Well, I've heard good things about the Sufis. I know that it's said to be the mystics, let's say, of Islam. I know that they have a more unique, let's say, interpretation of Quran and of the worship. I know that they have the dance, right? The dancing, what is it called? Anyway, specific dances where they get into that ecstasy, that spiritual ecstasy. And I, as somebody who has been in that religious ecstasy and who has danced for many hours, there were twice in my life, well, once, twice, let's say, that's just the one time. One time I danced for 6.5 hours straight, and I had a hairline fracture, not a fracture, a hairline crack in my left, was it my left? Yes, my left heel. Because I was dancing nonstop, almost nonstop. I stopped for like 20 seconds of drinking a bit of water and went right back. It was at a wedding. And I danced for, I think, just about 6.5 hours straight. So what do I think about the Sufis? From what I know of them, they seem to be wanting to go in the ways of peace and love. They seem to be wanting to cultivate a connection to the Most High God, which is more, let's say, mystical, esoteric, and I definitely connect with that sort of thing. Not to mean that the everyday, simple Hebrew man or woman aren't spiritual. They definitely are. But there are different ways of approaching the connection to the divine, different ways in which we try to expand our awareness, right, and widen our consciousness and clear the lens through which we view the world. And from what I know, the Sufis do that, right, and they're very much into that. And I've read some of the Sufi poetry, and I really loved it. Yes, only chic. There's a dance. There is a dance. What is it called? How about Edom, says the American Viking? Well, Edom is Jacob's brother. So Edom, Esau, is our brother. It's said that the sibling rivalry runs very strong between Jacob and Esau. It's also said that just like Jacob and Esau saw each other again after, how long was it? 22 years? And then they ran to each other and they truly embraced as brothers, that Jacob and Esau will once again, the nations of Edom and the nation of Israel, will once again embrace in brotherhood, in true love and brotherhood. That's what I would love to see. There are different prophecies about Edom and how there will be war, there will be judgment, but we must remember, according to the Hebrew tradition, the prophecies of war and of judgment and of tragedy and woe and destruction and death and exile, all these don't need to come to pass. The good stuff must come to pass, they say. The bad stuff, it's up to us. It's up to us in what we do. So, if we do have a prophecy of Edom and Israel fighting, I choose to say it doesn't need to happen. We can once again embrace each other as brothers. Also, there's that pain in the ass of Rome, albeit before it was Christian, but still Rome, representing Esau, according to the Talmud anyway, that burned down the Second Temple. And then it became Christian, and, pogroms, inquisitions, persecution, and all that. Wars. However, By the time Rome arrived at the Second Temple and burned it down, by the time Babylon, hundreds of years before that, arrived at the gates of the temple, of the first one, it wasn't truly a proper temple, and that was the reason why it had to be burned down. It was just a physical building. The sacredness was gone. God was not dwelling there anymore, let's say. The divine revelation was not there. We had turned Jerusalem and the temple, in the first one and the second one, to a place of hate, to a place of foreign worship, to a place that is not good and not kosher in the eyes of the divine revelation. And so by the time the enemies were at the gates, it was just burning down the building as the final step, because the spiritual element had been long gone since. So what about Edom? We can have peace. We can totally have peace, Edom and Israel, and I hope that we do. The American Viking says you are so knowledgeable. Well, I have my moments, but there's more of what I don't know than what I do know. And I'm always seeking to know more and to understand more. Have you ever hit someone in the face with a pie? Could be. I've definitely been hit in the face with a cake twice or maybe 3 times in my life by my woman. So why did Rome burn the Second Temple? Because Judea, the kingdom of Judea, the people in Judea they had an alliance with the Hashmonite dynasty. But then Rome, I don't recall who broke it first or who went against it first. I don't recall right now. But there was a time when the Hashmonite dynasty, the last kings of Judah, and Rome had an alliance or some sort of a give and take there, some sort of a partnership. But then it fell apart. And when Judea refused to accept the Roman occupation of Judea, and they rebelled, and they had a few revolts, then Rome came here and destroyed the temple at the year 70 of the Common Era. Let's continue. What does God think about technology? I don't know God. All I know is how God reveals himself to me. And I've had no such revelation specifically of what the divine revelation is regarding technology, so I have no idea. I think like any tool, technology is there for good and for bad. It can be used for benevolent purposes and malevolent purposes. It can be used to do righteousness and goodness and kindness and grace, and it can be used for malevolence and wickedness and evil. So I think technology is a tool, and it's up to us, we who hold the tool, to be able to see what it is that we're doing with this tool. Right? For all intents and purposes, I'm talking to you now through a cell phone. This cell phone could have so many things. I could be doing so much damage to myself physically, mentally, spiritually. I could be doing damage to other people. I could be trying to hack, I don't know what, whatever the case may be. But I'm using the phone right now to do this. So that is literally me taking this device, which could be so destructive, which could be so, well, unbelievably damaging, and I'm trying to do something good with it, at least the way that I see it, and my mind might be warped, and my heart might not be in the right place, my actions might be wrong, but this is the way I see it anyway. So when I take this cell phone, and I put it here, and I go live, and I'm trying to gain knowledge, and I'm trying to have a dialogue with people, I see that as something good, definitely compared to all of the things I could be doing with the phone that are not as good. You know, be it socially, be it morally, be it individually, spiritually, physically. So I think that if God and the divine revelation did have any thought on technology, it would be placed at the feet of human beings, us, the image of God, of saying, okay, what are you doing with this tool? It's a great tool. How are you using it? Play Fortnite. No, I don't play Fortnite. I tried once. My kids were into Fortnite at the time. They haven't played in a while. So I played once. Since I played only once, I didn't really get into it, but I get it, and I've watched them play a lot at the time. Were Jews in the Bible black or white? It does not say. I mean, there are different allusions, but it doesn't say the Hebrews were black, the Hebrews were white, the Hebrews were pink. Also, you got to understand, whenever there is color that's mentioned in the Bible, it's referencing one of the 10 Sfirot, because each one of the 10 Sfirot has a color that is attributed to it, or sometimes a couple of different colors depending on the connotation or the revelation of that Sfirah. The point is that the divine revelation is also color-coded. It's in Pardes Rimonim, it's Shar Hagvanim, the gate of colors, it's called. That's the gate, and it's many chapters. And so whenever it speaks of a different color in the Bible, esoterically speaking, it's speaking of a divine revelation of a certain kind and the relationship between them. So even if it would say, let's say, that the Hebrews are black, there are two types of black. There's black as opposed to white, which is evil as opposed to good, a duality. And there's black as opposed to the Most High God. In other words, there's the whitest of white, also known as Keter, the highest emanation, the top revelation of the Tree of Life, crown, Keter. And that is said to be the whitest of pure white, right, let's say. However, when you take any divine revelation, even the most, even the closest there is to the actual divine, the first unknowable and unthinkable emanation that we can't even perceive, called Keter, even that, they say, even though it's the whitest white, pure white light, it is black compared to the highest high. It is black compared to the Creator. So we see that if it says black, you need to take it in context. Is it speaking of black as opposed to white? Or is it speaking of black that is the highest white as opposed to the Creator? Do you see what I'm saying? So that's how I look at it, basically. Does God play Fortnite? Ben Katanak asks. I'm inclined to say yes. It's here. This is Fortnite. This is Fortnite. Okay, let's continue. Who are the Kurdish people are today? Well, I would think, Jerome, that the Kurdish people are in Kurdistan, are they not? The Kurds, aren't they the Kurdish? Kersday says the first emanation is Ein Sof. No, you are mistaken, because I go according to Rabbi Moshe Cordovero. Rabbi Moshe Cordovero says that the first emanation is Keter. Now you could say that Ein Sof is Keter de Keter, right? The crown of the crown, because in each 10 sfirot you have its own 10 sfirot, right? 10 inside of 10, 100 altogether, and it's all like a fractal, breathing in and out and fractaling in and out of itself. So Ein Sof means without end. Ein Sof, right? Look, Keter is known as Ayin, Aleph Yod Nun. Malchut is Ani, Aleph Nun Yod. And this is a root, and this is a root as well, and the tree goes mata lemala, mala lemata. So Kurdsel, I don't know which type of Kabbalah you are into, or that you've heard of, or that you study. Far be it from me to know, but according to the Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, right, Pardes Rimonim, the first emanation is Keter, and you could make the argument that Ein Sof is an attribute of Keter, but definitely it is Keter. But if you know something else, please, by all means, tell me. I'm curious. I'm curious regarding other Kabbalistic teachings. Live from Jerusalem, says Dylan McDonald. Yes, I am. Yes, indeed. Okay, let's continue. Okay, from Ayin comes Ein Sof. From Ein Sof comes Ein Sof Or. Just classic Kabbalah theory. No, you're mistaken. This is not classic Kabbalah. This is a lot more Lurianic, which is more modern than classic. Correct me if I'm wrong. Aren't you speaking of, right, Ayin, Ein Sof O, aren't you speaking of the Lurianic teachings here? Either way, it's not the way that it appears in the teachings of the Ramak, and the teachings of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero are ones which took all of that into account. Yes, Lurianic, precisely. So it's not classic Kabbalah at all. It's Lurianic Kabbalah. Now, ever since the Arizal showed up, yes, that became the classic Kabbalah. But I don't go with the Ari. I studied the Ari's teachings for a few years. I studied in yeshiva in Tzfat for 3 years before the army. So I know a small bit about Lurianic Kabbalah. However, I found that it wasn't really aligning with me. And when I opened up the Ramak's teachings, there I saw, how long has it been? 11 years. I've been learning. It's been 11 years? 12 years? I don't recall exactly, maybe a bit more, but I've been with the teachings of the Ramak. The Ramak is Rabbi Yitzchak Luria's master, or he was for a while. So if you're talking about Lurianic Kabbalah, it is indeed classic Lurianic Kabbalah. No argument there. But I am not a Kabbalist. I'm a student of the Tree of Life, and the Tree of Life, the lens through which I study is the lens of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, and not the Ari, not Lurianic Kabbalah. So like I said, I know a bit about Lurianic Kabbalah, but I never got into it And the Ramak's Kabbalah, on the other hand, is something that I am into a lot more. It speaks to me, right, like an IV. Now, this also has to do with the origin. Consider this. The Ramak studied in Tzfat. From the year 20 to 26, he wrote Pardes Rimonim, his first of two magnum opus, or opuses. And he wrote the Elima later in life. The Ari, however, is the writings of Rabbi Shmuel Vital, writing from the teachings of his father, Rabbi Chaim Vital, writing from the teachings of the Ari, who heard it from Eliyahu. So we have a few filters, right? We have Eliyahu teaching the Ari, teaching Rabbi Chaim Vital, teaching Rabbi Shmuel Vital. And of course we have all the different Gurei Ha'ari, the different things that Rabbi Chaim Vital did not agree to when he heard them, when he saw them, the people who came from Spain, or the people who were exiled to Spain. I don't recall. Or both. Anyway, there were a few of the Gurei Ha'ari, the students of the Ari, the disciples of the Ari, that Rabbi Chaim Vital did not agree with, and he said that what they were teaching, what they had written down, he didn't hear it that way, it was something a little different, and maybe they heard things that he didn't, or vice versa. But the Ramak is just him, right, writing down. And he had his master, right, Rabbi Shlomo Elkavetz Halevi, the one who wrote the Lecha Dodi. So when I started reading the Ari, it's a totally different way of learning Kabbalah than of studying the Ramak. Because of the way that it was filtered down, Eliyahu, the Ari, the Marchu, and Rabbi Shmuel Vital, and because the Pardes Rimonim goes a lot more in the sense of, right, more like the scientific method almost, of here's what we have so far, let's investigate it, let's explore it, why is it this way? Whereas the Ari is like, boom, there it is, this is what it is, and here's what it's like. Cord says, do you have any proof of God existing? The proof is in the pudding that is eaten. That's what I see. My proof that I have is mine own. I don't tell anybody else that they should believe in God and that I can prove it. No, I only know that it was proven to me many times over. In fact, it was proven to me many times over to such a degree that when I was, 19, 20, I've mentioned this before, I was out, in the woods of Tzfat, and I was just, talking to myself, talking to God. Hitbodedut, right? Hitbodedut. And I came to the conclusion right then and there, that's it, God. I don't need any more signs or symbols. I will never ask for anything else ever again to say, I need a sign that you exist. Show me that you exist. Nothing. That's it. I'm ride or die. That's me. I'm with you, all in, all the way. So that's what I've felt. But as for proof, no, I know that there's proof for me, but the proof that I have received will be absolute garbage and trash to somebody else. So I know I don't have proof for you. I have proof for me, definitely. So Cord Charge, or someone else, answer Cord Charge. Do you have any definitive proof? Who is Hamashiach, says Daleb. Hamashiach means the anointed one. So priests are Meshichim, messiahs, and kings, and prophets. And there is HaMashiach, the Messiah, the one who is said to be the final Messiah, someone of the house of David traditionally. But before that, there could be a king for Israel from any other tribe, right? And the last kings of Israel were actually from the Hashmonai dynasty, who were priests from the tribe of Levi. So the king does not have to be of Judah. The king does not have to be of the line of David. However, there is a tradition that says eventually the final king of Israel will be of the house of David from the tribe of Judah, and he will usher in this great thing. But a king of Israel stands, right? If there is a kingdom, and if there is a people, and they embrace and anoint a king and hand him the crown, then there is a king, and he is Hamashiach. He is the Messiah because they anoint him, or they crown him. That's what that is. Salta says, I have a question. From what I've researched about my family, I have Jewish ancestry from Portugal. In that case, could I convert to Judaism? You can convert no matter what you are. The only thing you're not allowed to be, and we don't know who these nations are a male Moabite or a male Ammonite. Ammon and Moab. And even there, it's just the males, because Ruth, in the book of Ruth, the scroll of Ruth at the time of the judges, Ruth had her mother-in-law Naomi, and Ruth was a Moabite woman, and she was allowed to convert. And so we see that it's only the males from Moab and Ammon who may not convert. The rest are welcome to convert. It doesn't matter if you have Jewish ancestry or not. It doesn't matter if you've been the gentilest Gentile of all Gentiles. If you're called to the Hebrew faith, you can join the Hebrew faith. Can you make armpit noise? All right, got to do what Robert says. All right, let's see. Let's continue. Wow, the chat is wild. Let's continue. All right. What if you were born as Christian or Muslim, says M-Boss. Nice to see you again, M-Boss. I'm thinking that if I was born Christian or Muslim, there's a very good chance that I would be Christian or Muslim, but my inclination, just like in the Hebrew faith, would be towards expanding my awareness, expanding my consciousness, and asking that great question, why? And now what? These are the questions that have driven me ever since I was a teenager. Why and what? Right? Why am I here and now what? The question still drives me towards many, many different things, and I seek to not answer it, but just continue to explore it. That's what I would like. Well done, says Fred Uckers. Hey, Fred Uckers, good to see you again. Inky Black Goo says hippie. Hello. Yes, I am a bit of a hippie. I'll give you that. La ilaha illa Allah Muhammad Rasulullah wa musanna ubudu wa rasulu. So there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. And Musa was the prophet of Musa was his loved one, his beloved, and his and his messenger. See, I know a bit of spoken Arabic. American here, what do you think of Otzma Yehudit? From what I read, I respect them. Well, I think, Wotan, that Otzma Yehudit is a political party here in Israel. And since political parties, in my estimation, are simply here to cause division, or no, they're not here to cause division. By virtue of their existence, they cause division sometimes directly and sometimes indirectly. And because I seek more unity and less division, that's why I don't play in the political game. I don't support any party. I don't know any of their platforms. I don't know who their representatives are. I haven't voted in about 20 years. So that's what I think of Otzma Yehudit. Curtis says, do words have creative power? Malach carry their meaning. Well, messenger or no messenger, words definitely have creative power. We are the ones who make and break and shape the world. Right? Like we are the image of God. I mentioned this before. I don't know if you were here, but we were talking about the image of God. And we were talking about how speech is what brought creation into being, the revelation of speech. And our revelation of speech, our revelation of speech is also something that does the same thing. Justin says, God is a deity. Yes, the name God is the name we give to a deity, and deity is a term. But all of these things, all the names of God, the terms we use, the attributes that we associate with, it's all revelations, emanations, and influences and reflections. It's not actually God. God is unknowable, untouchable, unthinkable, unfathomable. So anything that I can perceive is by definition not God. Anything I can speak of is by definition not God. Anything I can sense with whatever sense, with all my 12 senses, according to Sefer Yetzirah, I have 12, so do you. All of that does not approach God. What we can approach and cleave to and mimic in a mimetic sort of way, right? A mirror, mimesis, is the revelations of God, the attributes of the 10 Sfirot in which God is clothed. These are the garments of God in which he is revealed to the world, but it's not actually God, right? Much like I'm wearing clothing right now. I'm wearing a hat, I'm wearing a shirt, pants, and this is how I'm revealed to the world. If you look at me, this is what you see, but it's not me. It's just the clothing that I wear. In the very same way, I have the physical body, but that's not me. The physical body will die. The me is the essence inside, which is hidden. So it's something hidden inside something hidden inside something hidden. The clothes hide my body hides the soul, and so on and so forth. What do I think about Jewish Ethiopians as symptoms of life? Good to see you again, too. I think they are all good. I think that Ethiopia has a wonderful tradition. I think that Beta Yisrael got a raw end of a bad deal when they showed up here at first, and I hope that they were not mistreated too bad, and I hope that they are not mistreated now, but I'm very much a fan. My mom thinks you're hot, says Robert Harrison. Well, I wouldn't presume to say anything about your mother, Robert, but thank you. Religion means way of life, Kadir says. Yes. Are you an Orthodox Jew, says Jaeger, uncle? Uncle. Dud, yeah. I'm an Orthodox Jew. I grew up modern Orthodox in Jerusalem, but I'm not keeping strict halacha any longer. I might go back to doing that at some point, but right now I'm not keeping strict halacha. In the beginning there was the Word, says Oh Very Ordinary. Yes, that's what the Christians say. that the Word became flesh. So the Hebrew faith would say, yes, in the beginning there was a revelation of a word, but that wasn't the beginning, that was just beginning of revelation of speech, right? The book of Genesis begins with the letter Bet, the second letter of the alphabet, and it has something that is like this and with this little tail pointing backward, which means that there's a whole open thing, but something not quite there and at the beginning still. Hang on, my phone blooped. Okay, we're good. Let us continue. Thank you for your kindness as symptoms of life. Hey, you know what? De nada. There are times when I'm kind. There are times when I'm not as kind. But I do try and I seek and I would love to be kinder to myself and to those around me. Are you dumb stupid? Yes, I am. He says, how do you separate the parts of you that are influenced by the material and you the essence? Sorry for my name. Don't be sorry. I am dumb. I am stupid. I'm just a dumbass in the Middle East with a phone. So I don't separate. I seek to integrate. The Torah was given to living, breathing, walking, talking people in order for them to carry out the commandments. And so the influence of the material world is not something that you need to shy away from. It's something that you need to discern and take in measure. In other words, for anything material, there's a time and a place, right? There's a time to love and there's a time to hate. There's a time to build and a time to destroy. There's a time to embrace and there's a time to stay away. Right? In the book of Ecclesiastes and Kohelet, we see the 28 times that are mentioned there. And in doing so, the essence is brought to the foreground. And we basically use this world, if you will, and integrate the material into our spiritual practices. That's why Jews wear tefillin. That's why Jews wear tzitzis. That's why Jews wear talis. That's why Jews make the Torah out of scroll with ink. Right? This is why people say a blessing before partaking of food, or drink, or smelling something, or seeing the rainbow, or hearing the thunder, or seeing the lightning. It all has to do with the material world and with elevating it, right? Coinciding with your spiritual essence, and in doing so, you elevate both yourself and the material world along with you. Rav Kook says, "Kol ma she'ha'adam mitgadel, mitgadel ha'olam kulo imo." In other words, the higher you get, the higher you take the world along with you. You're not alone. Now, some people may be more solipsistic than others. Granted, I have my solipsistic moments as well and my solipsistic sides, but I am very much a fan of what Rav Kook said. When you elevate yourself, you're not elevating yourself alone. You take all of the world along with you. This is also, those are echoes of what our sages said in the Mishnah, right? That you should see yourself always on a balance of good and evil, and if you do a good deed, you tip it towards good. If you do a bad deed or transgress, you tip it towards evil, and so you need to always be thinking, I have the power! Yes. No, Namir says you were once God's chosen people, now you are his enemy. Okay, feel free to say that, but even though Israel does break the covenant is not broken by their actions. And Israel does return to the covenant every single time. Israel does return to the land of Zion every single time. Israel returns to Torah and commandments every single time. So, while there might be years of exile, destruction, and woe, we are always seeking, always longing, right? Wanting to return to our land, and in lieu of that, to continue on the tradition of the Hebrew faith, the Hebrew Torah, the Hebrew commandments, the Hebrew covenants. That's what we're doing. That's part of what we are here to do. Do you believe cats are sentient? Can animals have souls? Right, so there's the idea of the soul that is broken down into 5, nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechida. And it's said that the nefesh, the lower part of the soul, the life force, you have the life force of an animal that has no speech, that has language but no speech, because it has its own language. And you have us, the humans, created in the image of God. Unlike all other creation, we are the only ones created in the image of God. Higher than the animals, higher than the angels, higher than the demons, higher than anything else. So we are made in the image of God, and so we have a soul that is divine, they say, whereas other things, like the animals, have a beastly soul, and not a divine soul, meaning that there is a life force in them that sustains them, and it is divine in nature in the sense that they are a creation brought forth by the Creator, right? Created by the Creator. In that sense, they have divine life force inside of them. However, they don't have freedom of will and of choice and of action in the same way that we do. They act more on instinct, right? Stimulus response, less processing. Some mammals, of course, are more significantly advanced, and some are, can use their brains more and all that. But the human being stands out as being in the image of God, as being that crown jewel of creation, for better or worse. We've done a lot of wicked things, but we can also do a lot of good things. And that soul that we have is unlike the animal soul. It's a divine soul that's different from the regular run-of-the-mill life force that is animating your everyday ant, right, in the street. So, yes. We need Rain Hebrew. Ask your uncle, please. My uncle, eh? Well, my uncle, ironically, one of them lives here, and one of them, two of them live in the States. So you might be closer than you think to asking my uncle. I just seen a bluebird fly out of your beard. Really? It flew out again? Damn it, I told Jake to stay in there. Oh, man. Jake! Jake! He'll be back. Who is that standing behind you? Yosef asks. Nobody is standing behind me. Chicken says, I like when people mind their own business. Yes, I like that too. I like that too. I suppose sometimes you gotta push your schnoz where it might not belong, but yes, generally speaking, yeah, mind your business. Mind your business. Okay, let's continue. If Juraj said, if you will mislead with your word one being here, be sure, man, God is here, I tell you. I don't know if you're reacting to someone or if you're reacting to me, but okay. Kurds, he says, in Sefer Gilgulim, again, Lurianic Kabbalah, it is said that not everybody has a ruach, but receives it according to deeds. Right, so traditionally, the nefesh is what you come into when you're 13. The ruach is what you come into when you turn 20, or at least you have the potential of acquiring it, right? You have the potential of acquiring a nefesh once you're borrowed bat mitzvah. You have the potential of acquiring a ruach once you turn 20, right? Ben Esrim Lirdof. And you have the potential of a neshama once you are 40, if I'm not mistaken. And after that, there's already the chaya yechida, which is sort of outside, more like an aura that you can pull into your being, but does not exist within you. Whereas the nefesh is the blood, the ruach is in the heart, the neshama is in the mind. That's traditionally how it's set up. So yes, ruach needs to be attained. Nefesh is something that you have because it's the lowest basic life force symbolized in the blood. But you can still have the nefesh de nefesh, ruach de nefesh, neshama de nefesh, and so on and so forth. So Kursdal or Kusdil, I agree and I don't agree. Because the Lurianic teachings teach one thing, but it's not necessarily that way, but I get what you're saying. Kyle says, how does sin taint your soul? Well, Kyle, this is a dispute and a controversy among scholars. Is the soul remaining perfect, untouchable, part of the divine? Some people say, I don't agree, but they say, something that has a divine spark anyway. Or can you actively damage and lessen your soul by sinning, transgressing, doing bad things? I must say that how does it do it? It does it because you have freedom of... If it does do it, and it's not clear that it does, if it does do it, it is because by engaging in the wrong sorts of activities, you're putting a lot of filters on the light of your soul. So even though the light itself is shining as brightly as always and ever, the filters that you put on there darken it in how it's revealed to you and to the world, right? It darkens it. Much like, right, you have your eyesight. If you put a pair of sunglasses on, it becomes darker. If you put 100 pairs of sunglasses on, all in a row, the chances of you seeing something, even though your eyes did not change, but the blockage that you've put, the filters that you've put, have made it so you can't see. Even if your eyesight is 20/20, immaculate, perfect, never needed glasses, no LASIK surgery, nothing. But if you put enough filters, if you darken the window of your soul, then you will not be able to see. You will be blind de facto. That's how you can taint the soul. And if you do belong to the people who say that you do actually taint the soul, you actually damage the eye, it's not filters, it's actual damage to the eye, then it's by going against your nature, your own personal nature. Now, the nature of the Hebrew man and woman are kind of brought into the Torah and commandments thing. That's the tradition, that's what we were given, that's what we are meant to do here. So that's how. Okay, let's continue. Ooga booga, says Symptoms of Life. Yes, indeed, ooga booga. I agree. Hey, Sneezer is here. How you doing, man? Deporosoliber says, okay, if the flesh is the sin, when you die and leave the flesh, are you without sin then? Well, I'm inclined to say that death is something that came to the world as a result of sin. Consider the beginning of death in Genesis. It came to the world, it was outside of the world, and it came into the world with missing the mark and sinning. Meaning that death in and of itself is payment and atonement for sin. Literally, that's how it came into the world, and when you die, you atone. However, if you led such a life that your soul, let's say, was darkened and you require the removal of the filters, I didn't say the sin is flesh. I said it's things you do in the flesh that could have a detrimental effect, a filtering, dirtying effect, either outside or inside of the actual life force that we would call a soul. So even if we say that the soul remains pure white light, you darken it by wrapping it up in all kinds of stuff. So it can shine as brightly as it ever did, but you darken it. Or you could say that you actually physically darken the soul and damage the soul. But I didn't say the flesh is sin. I said you can sin only while you're in the flesh. When you're outside of it, you don't sin. And when you're outside of it, you have no commandments to follow, so you have no mark to miss. To sin lachto means to miss the mark. Mr. S said, who is the prophet like Moses mentioned in Deuteronomy according to you? Any prophet that had ever stood, any righteous prophet that has ever stood for the people of Israel. That's the prophet. Navi me'achecha kamoni, a prophet from my brothers like me. A prophet from your brothers like me. That's what that means. MFC, hi MFC, how can something immortal be damaged? Right, so that's just the thing. That's just the thing. That's why I'm of the opinion that it's not that you damage that spark, that divine thing that's inside of you, let's say. I think that you just cover it up with filters of your own doing. But there are those who say, no, the soul can be manipulated through your actions for better or worse. So in the very same way that you have the nefesh, ruach, neshama, and you can with your good deeds pull down that fourth and fifth revelation of the life force, of the soul, the chaya yechida, into your being, and what was outside, only in the aura, can be put inside of you, right? Much like your blood is here, your heart is here, your mind is here, you can pull down those other two inside of you. In the very same way, you can damage things as well. PBAT says, I'm giving this one more minute. Okay? It's been 2 minutes, and I just saw this now. Are you still here? Let's continue. The real Brit, the real covenant, says, do you believe in a literal creation account, or is it symbolic representation of evolution in your view? Yes, it's the latter more than the former. It's the latter more than the former. I definitely don't think of it as a literal creation account. No. Because if you say that water and wind and light existed before the sun and earth, the sun and moon and stars were created, that doesn't really align with modern day science and what we know of the evolution of stars and planets and the universe. And so what could brighten the soul? Torah and commandments, doing good deeds, being a good person, loving thy neighbor, not doing what you hate to your fellow. That's what can lighten the soul. Hang on. I gotta get clothes out of the dryer. It can wait, I'll snooze it. That's what could brighten your soul. Do you believe everything has consciousness? Well, let's put it this way. Everything? No. I'm inclined, there's a divide between animal, vegetable, right? There's a divide between mineral, vegetable, animal, and speaking being human. There's a split there. To some degree, there is a spark of divinity, they say, in every blade of grass. Every blade of grass, the Talmud or the Mishnah, says that each blade of grass that ever exists has a messenger, right, in the heavens that is influencing it and telling it to grow. In that sense, it's a creation. And it has a root in the spiritual realms. And this is but a reflection of it in physical form. Not just us, not just animals, not just mammals. Everything in creation, all of creation is the physical manifestation, the physical revelation that has a spiritual root. And as such, there's a type of consciousness there, even if we don't perceive it as such, because we're very limited here in this world. Now, there is a difference, though, between mineral, vegetable, and then animal and speaking. There's a difference there. I'm more inclined to say that it's the animal and the speaking animal, humans, that have consciousness more than minerals and vegetables. So that's what I say about that. But that's really just the tip of the iceberg there. Sean says, was the burning bush a metaphor for DMT from the acacia bush? I don't know. I've been told that it could be something psychedelic, psychoactive was going on there, but I'm still saying that it could simply have been an apparition of a burning bush, literally. Or if you look at it allegorically, if you look at it, let's say, right, as a metaphor, whatever the case may be, then you could say, no, it was just something that Moses was seeing because he was seeing that as kind of a hallucination. But whether it wasn't a hallucination and whether it was something that he was actually seeing with no substance whatsoever, it's the revelation that took place there, regardless of what it was that drew him to take a look, right? Only when he made a move did God say, Moshe, Moshe, right? Moses, Moses, take your shoes off. Once Moses made a move, then it was revealed to him. The burning bush could have been just a burning bush. It could have been a regular bush. He could have been on DMT, LSD, psilocybin, I don't know what. The thing is that he made a move. If Moses would have said, well, that's some freaky thing going on there, and then just went right along herding and ignored it, maybe the revelation would not have been given to him. But because he made a move, and this is the teaching that we can learn from this, among others, make a move. If something calls to you, like the sight of the burning bush called to him, don't just say, oh, okay, and go. No, something is calling to you. Something is burning and shining before you. Something extraordinary. Go, make a move. It doesn't have to be a big move. You don't need to run into the bush and burn yourself. You need to be curious. Be explorative. You're a human being. Go explore in measure, right? With discernment, with caution. What the fuck you on about, LOL, says Timmeow. Well, I'll tell you what I'm on about, man. This aggression will not stand. Mr. F says, do you believe Muslims are Ba'anei Noach, sons of Noah, adhering to the Yechidut of Deuteronomy and Isaiah, excuse the spelling, Yehudi? I'm not sure what the Yehudith is, but from what I know of Muslims, I've been told that we worship the same God, right? Allah means the God. And I've been told that the difference is that according to the Quran, Ishmael was bound. According to the Hebrew Torah, Isaac was bound. But that there's a kind of shared root there in Abraham. We also have the circumcision, the covenant of Abraham. We do it in different times chronologically, like in the process of growing as a baby or a boy or a kid. But we do it. So are they Bnei Noach? They're Bnei Noach in the sense that traditionally they are attributed and associated with Ismail, right, with Ishmael. Ishmael is the firstborn of Abraham, not of Sarah, but of Hagar. Isaac is the firstborn from Sarah, or Sarai, right, but Sarah. So both of them are blessed. Both of them are the sons of Abraham. Both of them are the sons of Abraham that received a blessing before, right, because afterwards Abraham got wed to Keturah, and he had many boys and girls, and he sent them away while he was still alive. The covenant of the Hebrew faith carried on through Isaac, but there was a different covenant, a different blessing that was carried on and carried out through Ishmael. So I don't precisely know what you mean there. Yes, Ishmael was lost in the wilderness and he was found. Incidentally, he was in his 30s then. Let's continue. Jensen said, but the land was promised to Abraham who spoke Akkadian, not Hebrew. Moses spoke Hebrew and was forbidden from the Holy Land. Well, what does that have? Are you responding to something, or are you saying that as a rebuttal to something that I was saying? Because it's not about the language or about any specific promise, as far as I'm concerned. Abraham lived at a certain time. He came from Mesopotamia, as far as the researchers are concerned. Ukasdim. Moses came born in Egypt, right? Okay, let's continue. True Jill says, hello, I am new. Hi. Can you please explain the Hebrew Nazareth? No, Nazareth is of Nazareth. Nazarite is somebody who's taken on a vow. Beliefs or goals. So the beliefs are like any other Hebrew beliefs. There is one God, there is a covenant, there is a Torah, there are commandments. Then Hebrew Nazarite man or woman simply take on a vow for the, whatever time that they do. If they fulfill it, there's a whole ritual at the temple. Some vows are for life. As for goals, there are no explicit goals. Each Nazarite that I've met took his or her Nazarite vow for different reasons. And each Nazarite that I met has their own, I suppose, goals in mind, some overlap and some things coinciding, but we do it for personal reasons, which makes the goal just as personal, I suppose. Is Hebrew and Israelite the same? Be kind. Hi, Be kind. There's a lot going on in the comments, Be kind. So it depends who you ask. As far as I'm concerned, being a Hebrew is being part of the Hebrew tribes, the tribes of Israel. But if you ask somebody who's, let's say, a black Hebrew Israelite, or somebody who is a Hebrew rooter, or somebody who is a black Israelite, or somebody who is I don't know what, they'll give you a different answer. But I consider the people of the Hebrews to be the people of Israel. That's what Moses tells Pharaoh. Elohei ha'ivrim, right? Adonai, the God of the Hebrews, appeared before us and told us to go worship him and go right in the wilderness. Let my people go, that they may worship me in the wilderness. And he calls the God of Israel the God of the Hebrews. We are the Hebrews. Pardon me. Okay, I think I'm going to say goodbye. A few more minutes. Can you answer why Israel is called Israel? Solid Owl says. Well, Israel is called Israel because his name was Jacob, but then he went through a couple of trials, and his name was changed to Israel. Israel literally means either those who contend with God or those who wrestle with God, those who are able to be, right? The messenger gives him that name, and then the divine revelation of a different kind gives him that name, sort of solidifying it, putting its seal of approval on it. And those two different names represent two different divine revelations, both pertaining to the individual, right? We have Abraham on the right, we have Isaac on the left, and we have Yaakov, Jacob, in the middle. And yet there's a higher Jacob and a lower Jacob. There's Jacob and there's Israel. And those are two different things, and they are embodied in the same person, right? There's the higher man and the lower man. There's all kinds of different things in there. Handy Andy is here. Good to see you. I'm sorry. I thought you left. No, I did not leave. The Real Brit says, do you believe the flood and the Exodus actually happened, or are they more symbolic than true history? I believe it could have gone either way, and it doesn't matter to me, because for me the question is, and now what? It doesn't matter to me if it was real or not. It doesn't matter if it happened or not. It's the wisdom that has been passed through the generations that I'm supposed to learn from. Right now, it has zero consequences for me in the here and now. Zero. I can learn from the stories. I can learn from what happened. I can learn more what not to do than what to do through those stories. It could just as well have been true history. Some people take it as such. I don't say they're wrong. Some people say, no, it's all symbolism, it's all allegory, it's all metaphor. And I say, okay, you're right as well. Do you do your laundry a special religious way? No, I've got a washing machine, and a dryer for when I can't, a dryer for when it's not as hot. Why don't you say the Tetragrammaton? Because the way to pronounce Mr. S, the way to pronounce the Tetragrammaton has been lost through the generations, which is why now we say Adonai. And right, we look at it one way and we speak it another. Yod He Vav He represents the masculine presence. Adonai, Aleph Daled Nun Yod, represents the feminine divine presence. And in doing so, we bring them together, where we speak one thing, but we see another, right? And that brings them together. What you are looking at is not how you spell it, and what is not how you speak it, and how you speak it is not how you spell it. It's a whole thing. But that's why. However, as far as I'm concerned, we will be going back to saying the Tetragrammaton regularly in everyday life once it's revealed to us, or once it is re-revealed to us, because some people say that it's been lost, and some people say, no, a few people still have it, and they pass it down orally from master to pupil, so we'll have to wait and see. All right, on that note, it's been an hour and 14 minutes. I want to say thank you. Thank you to all of you out there, those watching now, those watching later. I deeply appreciate your time, your kind and gentle attention, the love and the hate, the subs, the views, the likes, the vitriol. You know, the ones who say that I smell, the ones who tell me to shower, the ones who say, oh, yeah, you know what, I never looked at it that way. Whatever it is, I'm happy that you're here. Please do remember, don't take my word for it. Do your own research. I'm just a dumbass in the Middle East with a phone. So, until maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, I'm not sure. I should let my voice rest. I said that last night, but here I am broadcasting. So, until then, be blessed. Be a great blessing to those around you. Be the light in other people's lives. Do good things. Be good people. Until then, goodbye from Jerusalem. Have a wonderful day. God bless. Cheers.